Have you heard anything about or from Cory Booker and Kamala Harris? It looks like the elites and corporate Democrats are positioning them for 2020. But have they spoken out against the establishment in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I myself have had personal interactions with Kamala Harris around police accountability that have been extremely frustrating.
I just read something that, frankly, she's a fake on criminal justice reform.
Yeah. Completely. We tried to pressure her to come in and do a pattern and practice investigation of the San Francisco Police Department. And she said, I'm going to wait for the Department of Justice to issue its recommendations. And if they don't implement them, then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to act, knowing full well that by the time the recommendations came out, she would already be in Washington. I admire her. I admire Cory Booker greatly. And I think they are fantastic individuals. And I would love for Kamala Harris to become the president of the United States. But
how could you say that without knowing who she would be running against? So when you say that you would love Kamala Harris to be president of the United States, but given at least in my view, her positions are not authentically progressive. That she's part of a wing of the Democratic Party that is not going to get the people there. That there could be something better. It doesn't matter if it's, at least in my perspective, I don't care if that leader's white, Latino, Asian. I don't care about their gender as much as this country is in such a dire state that we have to be careful in terms of how we price in our tribal politics. Yeah, I'm just wondering, hey, how can you say you would be glad if Kamala Harris is president? Is it because she's a woman, or she's a female Democrat and that's why, or?
Well, because she's a woman of color from the Bay Area, those types of things. But, saying that, my police accountability activist friends would be very unhappy with me for saying that when I came out publicly saying that.
These are black people in the Bay, in the trenches. They do not give Kamala Harris a lot of credibility with police reform. Certainly. Here in the trenches.
Yeah. Here in the trenches, no. The reason why because I don't see who the alternative is, right? I don't see another leader emerging that's going to be.
If Kamala Harris is running against Bernie Sanders,
I would definitely go for Kamala Harris. Yeah. No, I mean, Bernie Sanders to me, I'm like, I just don't like angry white guys running things, especially whose supporters are largely angry white guys.
Hopefully the Democrats can run someone better than Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders.
Listen, I feel like our society is in decline, and it's really difficult for whoever becomes president to reverse the course of income inequality, racial inequality, police militarization. The police, guns, they're all on one side, the prison industrial complex. So I don't understand why more people are not alarmed and active on the police accountability activism, because we are becoming a police state. When you see tanks rolling down the streets of Baltimore and Ferguson, and if police really were so concerned about their safety, wouldn't they be the number one proponents of gun control and getting guns off the street? But instead, they say, keep sending us more military equipment, give us stronger. And the Obama administration gave that to them, and it's terrifying to me. So we moved into society where 20% of the people control 95% of the wealth, and that's not enough. Like they want more. This does not end well. And you have like this very militarized police in the middle designed to keep that system in place. We need really strong leadership to change the course of that.
We need to understand that the oppression, the racism, the white supremacy, the discrimination, it's not a Republican or a Democratic thing, right? That both parties are suboptimal for where the black community wants to go. And the greed, listen to me, the greed that controls a lot of these politicians on right and left in black America, we need to understand how the game works. That the Democrats are being funded by, a lot of them are corporations, elites, and they are the part of the power system behind the politicians and leader. So you have a greed that is embedded within the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the entire system. The first stop on reimagining, I believe, the political landscape for black America is to understand that greed, corporate greed, including interests from foreign countries, is coming before the black vote. I believe, when you look at Cory Booker and Kamala Harris giggling with Netanyahu, and they're going to do all these speeches. They may do more speeches with those aligned with the interests of Israel than they do with those aligned with the interests of the black community. That's where they draw a lot of their financial and political support. And they will prioritize, I believe, the Jewish community over the black community. And so when you think about, hey, we vote, right? We have a bigger population, but why do these politicians take care of these smaller groups? Why are they prioritizing this other stuff? And so what black America, I believe, needs to think about is you have to evaluate the entire system in terms of how corporations, other countries, how these people influence and control the politicians. That it's a game, right? It's like a puppet show. And who's pulling the strings? And so the consciousness, I believe, of the black voter really needs to bang hard politically on removing the corporate and foreign interests out of politics.
I agree. I mean, I don't think, I wouldn't say that that's not a priority. I just, I think that when it comes to things like that, I tend to lean to other advisors because I've become so cynical of the political system that I see it and I just see it. It's so fucked up that it's just something where I don't know how in my lifetime I could change this beast of a,
So I'm not. It's kind of like I'm not. It doesn't matter who's in power, and kind of I'm gonna do my thing.
It's not gonna say it doesn't matter. It's more like in terms of what matters most in my life. Who's in power doesn't have the dominant impact on what occurs, in my existence as a black man or black, if I were a black woman. I think that, to your point though, this idea that you got these black politicians, Kamala and Cory Booker, that, are kissing up to the Jewish community more than they kiss up to the black community. It does make you say, okay, well, why is that? And obviously it's money, right? The Jews are able to make financial contributions that are disproportionate to their percentage in the population. And black people, we feel that we're going to have an influence because we all voted. And so at the end of the day, black people lose because we don't have the massive numbers to really, really swing a vote. We can influence a vote to a point, but we don't have like Hispanic level numbers, right? So we can only influence that so much. And then financially, we can only do so much. So I think that when you talk about where you're putting your energy, I do agree with you that if it were possible to find some way to support a candidate that wants to get the money out of politics, fine, do it. I don't think it's going to be doable. I just don't. I just think that sometimes you get to a point where the beast has become so bad, so deadly, so infected that you can't pull the virus out of the beast. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody could prove me wrong.
Why do you think the Black Democrat establishment, the Congressional Black Caucus, why haven't Black Democrats required the Democratic Party in their platform? They have like paragraphs written on Israel, for example. Why do you think Black Democrats have never pushed for prioritizing our brothers and sisters in Africa in terms of trade, in terms of cultural exchange, in terms of support? Why haven't the Black Democrats demanded that the Democratic Party has to prioritize the entire continent of Africa over Israel? That Israel has a big bullet point of priority in the Democratic Party platform. Africa does not have that priority. They start talking about wildlife. But why wouldn't the Black Democrat require the Democratic Party to say, in terms of foreign aid, economic development, military support, that the country of Israel cannot get more support than the entire continent of Africa, where we are descendants of?
Because they're not, the members of the Congressional Black Caucus aren't really there to represent the interests of even the Black people who voted for them. I think they see their base as being relatively unsophisticated, incapable of seeing the big picture. So if I'm a congressman or a senator and I was elected by Black people, I can go back and I can make them happy by just, putting a statue up in the park or opening up a Little League football team. They're not going to really necessarily be concerned about, the weight of global politics. Like why are you doing more things for Israel than you are for Africa? You're going to have some of those Black people who will say, yeah, who are smart like you, who are going to see that whole big picture. But what happens is in our community, ignorance is winning. So people like that get marginalized. There will always be fewer Black people listening to me than there are who will listen to Cardi B, right? And you think, let's just think about that, right? Cardi B is this influential person who is very talented, but she became famous by, going on Instagram and talking about how well she can suck a penis, right? And so that just kind of speaks to, just sort of where we are as voters. We're not at this point, a very sophisticated voting base. Now, maybe in 50 years, we can be more sophisticated. That's why I think the educators have to fight the good fight and elevate the community's consciousness level. But it's going to take a while.
Well, the Democratic Party, the corporate Democrats, there's different, of course, segments in the Democratic Party, but the corporate elites who love a Bill Clinton, they love a Barack Obama, they love Hillary Clinton, they don't love kind of Bernie Sanders, they don't love kind of some of the more progressive candidates, right? The more socialist candidates, the more populist candidates. So the corporate elites have made up their mind, at least in my view, is that we want to run either as vice president or as president, Cory Booker or Kamala Harris. And here's my theory on this. If I run a clean black politician, Ivy League, great credentials, super clean. If I run a Barack Obama, if I run a Kamala Harris, if I run a Cory Booker, right? These are people white folks are comfortable with. And I don't need to negotiate much with that Black voter, because so many Black voters are going to go on the optics of, we got a Black person on the team, we got a Black president, we got a Black vice president, that in the value exchange, if I put a Black person out front, in terms of how a Democratic strategist, I think that they're thinking, these elites, is I can offer the Black community less. If I have a white candidate, I may have to offer them more. I may have to do more. So in the perverse two-party system that's really centralized on greed and different sides of that greed landscape, corporate landscape, that the cheapest way to get a black voter, in terms of what type of policies do I have to offer them, is to run a clean black candidate. Because I don't have to offer that much. You guys are happy with the blackface.
That's true. You know, it's very easy to get over on a person or group of people when they value flash over substance. Very easy. You know, the Obama campaign mastered that. They knew that if they just had pictures of the family on the cover of Ebony magazine, you know, that would go a long way. Or if he sang the Al Green song when he's giving a speech, you know, little things like that. They had Michelle Obama rapping, remember, like she was Beyonce or something. Like these are the things that they give to black people because black people don't really, we're not necessarily ready to play hardball politics, you know, and you know, whether that changes or how fast it changes, I don't know.
But you do agree with that kind of disconnect in the political marketplace where when you play out the scenario of the Democratic Party and how things work, that when you run your scenarios, the cheapest way to get that black voter to turn out is to run a black one. So actually, when you play this stuff out, a white Democratic candidate, you probably are going to get more criminal justice reform, more stuff if they run a white people. They got to do more. You do believe that? Generally, obviously, there's exceptions.
Right. I do think there's a trade-off. There is a trade-off in the sense that if you look at the Obama presidency, for example, I use that as a good example because it illustrates the point you're making it right there. We gave up something for the fact that we got the chance to look at somebody in office who looks like us. Because what that does, because everything you do, everything the politician does is he's trying to send a message to you that I'm on your side and I deserve your vote. So if it's a white guy, he's actually got to deliver something, a policy, some money or whatever. If he's black, all he's got to do is say, well, look, I'm black.
After Trayvon Martin, after that happens and some of these other police shootings, is there a less push towards the federal government in terms of calling for justice for the kids that are being killed by the police? Is the black men and women here in America, they hold back some because it's Barack Obama. If it's a white man, you guys are in the streets. You guys are in the streets banging against the president, and you're banging against America hard.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I think that what's interesting is that the Obama presidency set the tone for Donald Trump to feel comfortable ignoring black people, because a lot of what Trump has said is actually what, Yvette Carnell actually said, and she was very right. Trump basically came back and said, look, what did Obama do for you? Why are you getting mad? Like that I did this. He didn't do this, right? And I remember Yvette saying this. This is back, when we used to work together more. But she said, if you don't ask this black president to help you, or to do things for you, then the next white president is going to say, well, why are you asking me to do stuff? The black guy was in office and he didn't have to do half of this. So I think that we have to be very cautious about getting heavily involved in identity politics, because it makes us look real stupid.
If you're interested in advertising on the Go podcast, you can go to moguldom.com/GHOGH. Once you're there, click on the advertising link. Let's get back to the podcast. So last month, the Israeli government murdered 20 Palestinians. Just murdered them. 20 Palestinians, and they murdered them. You do not hear Kamala Harris, who's been to Israel. You do not hear Cory Booker, who's been to Israel. Why won't these Negroes say something? Because now they're at the national level, right? Kamala Harris is in the Senate. They're speaking from a national foreign policy perspective now. They're at the heights of the political system. These are the Democratic Party stars, right? But why won't they, if they're really committed to justice and they talk about international issues, why do you think we haven't heard them condemn the Israeli government for killing 20 Palestinians?
I think that you asked that question because you know the answer, right? We know that they're owned. They're bought and paid for. The Anti-Defamation League and these Jewish organizations pretty much run and control a lot of politics. I think black people can learn a lot from the Jewish community in terms of how to have a lot of power that's disproportionate to your representation in the population.
Someone on the global stage, in terms of, when I look at some of the messaging that comes out from these corporate Democrats, they'll say little things to get black people kind of yay. So, they're very strategic in the messages they put out to the community to make the community think they're really for them, that they come first. So can you trust your politicians, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, these type of politicians, who white folks just love? Corporate Democrats, they just love. Those are those candidates, and they're positioning them for 2020. Can you trust a politician on justice for our people here in the United States? Where are they going to do the right thing in terms of, our kids and black men and black women being shot down in police and there's no justice? Can we trust them to do the right thing by the community and prioritize us if they're on the international stage and they won't even say anything about 20 innocent people being killed by Israel? Meaning that they may speak a few things here because they're going to get your vote, but you want to judge people in terms of their consistency, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what they're going to probably do from a foreign policy perspective is they're going to represent the best interests of that segment of the United States that controls their actions and writes their checks, right? So I would say the best interest of the United States, but I don't think it's in the best interest of the United States. I think a lot of our foreign policy is built on, it's connected to corporate greed, it's connected to a type of arrogance, where we've done a lot of bad things all throughout the world in the name of the United States. And it's given us a lot of enemies, right? So I would say that in that situation, I think that what a Kamala Harris might be thinking or a Cory Booker is thinking is, well, yeah, it is sad that they killed these Palestinians, but there's nobody in the United States that is paying me to represent the interests of the Palestinians. Almost like a lawyer saying, well, I'd like to represent you, but you're not paying my fee. But I represent him because he's paying my fee. So the Jews are paying their fee. The Jews are the ones who are controlling damn near everything. And they got the game on lock because they got it to the point where they have the ability to label you as anti-Semitic just because you point out the fact that they're running the whole game. And so I think, overall, at the end of the day, it tells you a little bit about how politics works. It ain't about these people. To me, it's not about these people trying to do the right things. It's not even about these people really having any real control or any real say in what happens out of their office. If they don't do what the machine behind them is telling them to do, then the machine will replace them. It's like a CEO. If I'm the CEO of a corporation and my job, I've signed on to this job to maximize the wealth of the shareholders by engaging in a specific strategy, I have only so much space to deviate from that strategy. If I deviate too much, then what's going to happen? The board of directors is going to vote. The shareholders and the board of directors are going to get rid of me. They're going to replace me with somebody who plays ball the way they want you to play ball.
Did you vote for Barack Obama?
Yes. Yeah.
Both times?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any issue with Barack. I had
go ahead.
I had people that got upset with me because I told black people they don't have to vote for him. I told black people they should vote for whoever the hell they want to. And I think and then I told them they don't even have to vote. That your ancestors didn't die for you to vote for a Democrat. They died for you to have the right to choose.
What would you say to the black Democrat who would say, look, we get what you're saying, but if you do not vote, more of our people are going to be locked up, right? There's going to be more privatization of the prisons, that there's real consequences of you telling black people don't come out and stop Donald Trump, stop MAGA, that if you do not vote black man and woman, don't be crying when Donald Trump stops all the positive stuff Obama was doing as it relates to criminal justice reform and the prison system.
I say, you know what? Anytime you take a stand on anything, there's always a consequence. And so I flip that on the Democratic Party. I say, well, if you're upset that black people because Cory Booker, do you remember Cory Booker blamed black people for Trump getting elected?
Yeah,
and said we brought it on ourselves. Okay.
Yeah, that's just pure sickness.
Right, and my thought is, no, I put that on the Democrats. If you had done more, black people would have felt incentivized.
We're voting 90% Democrat. Who's more loyal than the black Democrat?
Right.
You guys should be voting at 95. Well, you go tell white folks that.
Right. Or I think what they're saying is, even though we support the Democrats, that more of us should have just came to the polls, right? It's one thing for me.
It's like that sense of entitlement. It sounds like what you're saying is like Democrats are just entitled to the black vote.
Yeah, well, there is an entitlement, and I think ultimately, you're right. The Trump presidency has, Trump has stunk up the place. It's not a fun thing to watch. It's a tough consequence for us to pay as a country for making a bad decision, whatever happened, right? But I will say this. If you notice, there's actually talk right now for the first time ever that the Democratic Party might include reparations as part of their platform. And why do you think that happened? That happened because the Democrats have said, we need black people to show up to this election. What do we need to do to be more sensitive to their needs so they're going to show up?
A small group of Democrats who are pushing that.
Right. Yeah. Those who wanted to do what was necessary to get black people out there, right? So, my position on it is the reason people are so focused on the consequences of abstaining or the consequences of us taking a stand against democratic tyranny is because they're short-sighted. All they see is, oh my God, if we don't vote, then Trump will get elected. It'll be all your fault. And I had black people that got mad at me and said, no, you should have told black people to vote Democrat because it's your fault that Trump's in office.
I got to be honest, brother. I had a thought. I saw one of your messages, and I was really thinking about specifically certain policies that as soon as Trump got into office, he was going to pull back a lot of the positive stuff Obama was doing, in that there would be consequences of a low black turnout.
Right. There are always consequences when if you want a long-term gain, there will always be short-term consequences. And the reason black people can't move forward is because everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. Everybody wants to lose weight, but don't nobody want to go through the pain of being in the gym.
You're saying that Trump, in terms of, you were thinking this then, that maybe if Trump gets into office, the system is so bad, it's so messed up, that this would actually turn out to be a positive long term.
My belief was that if we let the Democrats know that we know we got a choice. We always have a choice. We don't have to show up and vote for you. I don't care if you tell me that, I'm going to die and the Republicans are going to make
give the Democrats Trump.
Right. Fuck it. You don't give a fuck about right. You said fuck me. Well, fuck you too. That's my whole position. Yeah. Right. You seriously think about this. It's easy to understand.
Assuming that there's no nuclear war or nothing really pops off.
Right.
In all honesty, it could be a net for the black men and women specifically in America, because Obama put a lot of you guys to sleep. You saw a black president. You saw Michelle. You started thinking MAGA. You started thinking America was great. We're beyond race. America, these people have woke up. They're treating black people differently. America is different. Obama and Michelle, they pretty much said the same thing in terms of some of their speeches about America so fair. I can't believe that, the descendants of slaves are in the White House. America so gracious. America is MAGA. America is great. And I believe that Obama and Michelle, not intentionally, but they put a lot of black people to sleep in terms of this beast here in America.
Oh, let me tell you a story. I gave a speech right when Obama got inaugurated at a church in Long Island, and the choir director was leading black people to sing the song "We Shall Overcome." It was a Martin Luther King Day speech, and instead of singing "We Shall Overcome," they changed the words to "We Have Overcome." That's what they had people. And then when I was in the lobby, a lady came out with this beautiful portrait of Barack Obama, and it was an old lady, and I said, "That's a beautiful picture. Where'd you get that?" She said, "I just bought it in the lobby, and I'm going to take it home, and I'm going to put it right next to my pictures of Martin Luther King and Jesus." That was the mindset of black people. It's some coonish, backward, slave thinking, and you're right. We put ourselves to sleep, and Trump woke you up, and now
you're better off woke.
You are better off woke. Absolutely. You know, we gotta, you know, it's like, I mean, think about this. I asked black people, I said, so tell me, since Trump got elected, I know this upsets you, but I need you to tell me exactly what has changed in your life on a day-to-day basis as a result of Trump being in the White House or the results of Obama getting elected. What has changed in your life? Did your kids suddenly go to a better school? Did you get a better job? Were you making more money? Were you happier, you know, with your life? You know, and the answer is no. There's nothing that they can point to tangibly that shows that Obama being in office or Trump being in office affects their life. The only way it affects your life is it affects your life almost like you're watching a movie. You know, it's like if you have a favorite character.
Well, I can say it has impacted their life in a positive way because a lot of you are more woke. A lot of you have all of a sudden developed a consciousness. A lot of you guys were getting money and you started thinking America was this and that, and America was never this and that when Obama and Michelle were in office. So when you really analyze it, if Hillary Clinton went into office, a lot of you guys, particularly the Negroes getting money, Negroes who believe we're beyond race, you guys would still be asleep. Trump came, I believe, and he woke you up. You should have been woke before when Obama was in office. But you started thinking America was a lot better, a lot fairer, a lot less racist because Obama and Michelle were president. And that was a lie.
That's true. I mean, I think that complacency sets in when you're comfortable. You know, anytime any group of people has achieved progress, it's because the pressure of their situation, the pressure of their persecution led them to say, we can't live like this anymore. Black people...
Meaning more revolutionary. Like, we can't keep on doing this little Democrat incremental Hillary Clinton. We need a revolution. There needs to be something big to shake this shit up.
Yeah, well, the thing about black people is that we become